I was broke. Not just low on money. I mean completely stuck. The kind of broke where you calculate every small expense. Where going out feels like a risk. Where your reality constantly reminds you of your limitations. But here's the part that didn't make sense. Even though my situation was small, my vision wasn't. I saw a different version of my life in my mind. A version where I moved with confidence. Where I made decisions without fear. Where I didn't feel limited by what was in my account. But every time I looked around, reality pulled me back. The environment I was in, the people around me, the conversations I heard daily, everything reinforced the same message. Stay where you are. And for a while, I listened. Until one day, I realized something that changed everything. If I keep thinking like this, nothing will ever change. Because before money shows up in your life, it shows up in your mindset. And that's when I made a decision that didn't make sense to anyone else. I decided to start acting like the person I wanted to become. Even when I had nothing. When I say I started acting rich, I don't mean I started pretending to have money. I didn't buy things I couldn't afford. I didn't fake a lifestyle. What I changed was how I thought, how I moved, and how I saw myself. I started carrying myself differently. I paid attention to how successful people spoke, how they made decisions, how they used their time. And then I asked myself a simple question. If I already had the life I want, how would I act today? And I started living from that answer. I became more intentional. More disciplined. More aware. Even when no one was watching. And to people around me. It looked strange. Because nothing in my reality had changed yet. But everything inside me had. One of the hardest things I had to do was distance myself from environments that kept me small. Not because the people were bad, but because the mindset was limiting. Conversations about survival. Complaints about life. Excuses that sounded normal. I realized something. Your environment shapes your expectations. And your expectations shape your results. So I started changing what I exposed myself to. Books. Podcasts. Conversations that challenged me. I surrounded my mind with growth, even when my reality hadn't caught up yet. And slowly, my thinking expanded. Acting rich wasn't about appearances. It wasn't about clothes, cars, or trying to impress anyone. It was about discipline. Because I realized something most people ignore. Feelings are unreliable. There were days I didn't feel like waking up early. Days I didn't feel like working. Days I didn't feel like pushing myself. And before, I used to listen to those feelings. I would wait for motivation. But motivation is inconsistent. It comes and goes. And if your progress depends on how you feel, you'll never move forward consistently. So I made a shift. I stopped asking myself, do I feel like doing this? And started asking, what needs to be done? That question changed everything. Because it removed emotion from the equation. I started building systems. Simple routines. Wake up at a set time. Plan my day. Execute what matters. No excuses. Even when it was uncomfortable. Even when it felt repetitive. Even when nobody noticed. Because I understood something powerful. Discipline is what separates intention from results. And while everyone else was waiting to feel ready, I was training myself to act regardless of how I felt. That's when my life started shifting. Not dramatically, but consistently. And consistency is where real change happens. I didn't change everything overnight. I didn't suddenly become perfect. What I did was focus on small habits. Because big goals can feel overwhelming. But small actions? They're manageable. So I started simple. Waking up a little earlier each day. Spending time learning something new. Planning my next move instead of reacting to life. At first, it didn't feel like much. There were no big results. No major breakthroughs. Just small, quiet improvements. And honestly, it was easy to underestimate. Because when progress is slow, it's easy to think it doesn't matter. But here's what I learned. Small habits don't look powerful in the moment. They become powerful over time. Because every small action stacks. Every consistent effort builds momentum. And slowly, I started becoming someone different. More focused. More intentional. More disciplined. Not because of one big decision, but because of many small ones. And that's when I realized. You don't rise to success. You grow into it. One habit at a time. The biggest shift didn't happen in my actions. It happened in my thinking. Before, my decisions were based on limitation. What can I afford? What if this fails? What if I lose what little I have? That mindset kept me safe. But it also kept me stuck. Because when you focus on what you can't do, you stop exploring what you could do. So I changed the question. Instead of asking, what can I afford? I started asking, how can I grow? That one shift opened new possibilities. I stopped thinking short term. Stopped focusing on immediate comfort. And started thinking long term. I invested in learning. I took calculated risks. I focused on growth instead of fear. And something interesting happened. My perspective expanded. Opportunities that once seemed invisible became visible. Because the way you think determines what you see. And when you think differently, you start moving differently. That's when everything began to change. At first, nobody noticed. And honestly, that's how it should be. Because real growth happens quietly. But over time, something started shifting. Not in my bank account yet, but in my presence. People started asking questions. You've changed. What are you doing differently? You seem more focused. And the truth is, I wasn't trying to show anything. I was just becoming something. Because when your mindset changes, it shows. In how you speak. How you move. How you respond to situations. I became more calm. More intentional. More confident. Not loud confidence. But quiet certainty. The kind that doesn't need validation. And that energy, it attracts attention. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you're different. And that difference opens doors. Then something unexpected happened. Opportunities started showing up. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But subtly. A conversation that led somewhere. A connection that opened a door. A chance that I would have missed before. And I realized something powerful. Opportunities don't just appear. You become ready for them. Because before, those same opportunities existed. I just couldn't see them. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't aware. I wasn't thinking at that level. But now, I was. And when preparation meets opportunity, things start to change. I took action. I moved quickly. I applied what I had been building. And slowly, things started working. The results didn't come overnight. But when they came, they were real. Not luck. Not coincidence. But the result of consistent effort. Small wins at first. Then bigger ones. And with each result, my confidence grew. But this time, it was different. Because it wasn't based on hope. It was based on proof. Proof that discipline works. Proof that mindset matters. Proof that consistency pays off. And once you experience that, everything changes. Because now you know. It's possible. And when you know something is possible, you move with a different level of certainty. Looking back now, I understand something clearly. I didn't become successful because I had money. I became successful because I changed who I was. Before the money came. That's the real lesson. Success is not something you chase. It's something you attract. By becoming the kind of person who can handle it. And that transformation, it starts inside. With your mindset. Your habits. Your discipline. So if you're waiting for your life to change, don't wait for money. Don't wait for opportunity. Start changing yourself. Because when you do, everything else will follow. Listen. Being broke wasn't my biggest problem. Thinking like I was. Everything in my life started changing. The moment I stopped waiting. And started becoming. So if you're watching this right now, and you feel stuck, not because you don't have potential, but because your reality hasn't caught up yet, then this is for you. Your action steps start now. Step 1, upgrade your mindset. Stop asking, what can I afford? Start asking, who do I need to become? Because your life will only grow to the level of your thinking. Step 2, build discipline daily. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for motivation. Do what needs to be done. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's where transformation begins. Step 3, focus on small habits. You don't need a big break. You need consistency. Small actions, repeated daily, create massive results over time. Step 4, change your environment. Protect your mind. What you watch. What you listen to. Who you surround yourself with. All of it shapes your future. Step 5, act like the person you want to become. Not fake. Not pretend. But intentional. Move differently. Think differently. Decide differently. Because when you change your identity, your life follows. Pause, softer tone. One day, people will look at your life and call it success. But they won't see the quiet days. You chose discipline over comfort. So don't wait for change. Become it. If this story shifted your mindset, subscribe to Billionaire Backstories right now. Because on this channel, we don't just tell stories. We build the mindset that creates success. And if you're serious about changing your life, drop this in the comments. I'm becoming more. Let's see who's ready to level up.